My name is Shane Davis. I'm a dealer at Clovis Antique Mall. My actual business name is Vintage Vinyl and Victrolas, but most people just know it as Shane's Records Shop.
How long have you been collecting for?
I've been collecting records since I was about 4 years old. I think I destroyed my parents' record collection when I was 3 and just been into it ever since. I come from a musical family.
Mm-hmm.
My grandfather, who I never knew, he was a guitar player in a country western band in this area back in the 1950s.
Uh-huh. And so that's always just kind of been around?
Exactly. Music's always been around.
Yeah. Do you remember what the first records were you started pulling from your parents' collection?
It was old rock and roll from the 50s.
Yeah.
Is what they mostly had. I think I went to my elementary school had a rummage sale, and I bought a copy of the Ghostbusters soundtrack song on 45 for 50 cents. That was one of the first ones I ever bought. Personally.
Yeah. How many do you think you have now? Do you bother to keep track?
I think there's probably about 12,000 records in here. To be honest with you, most of my stuff is here.
Okay.
People think I have 10 mini storages full of this stuff. I don't. This is most of what I have.
I'm sure you have a private stash. What's that like?
It's not huge. There are some favorites of mine at home. There's also copies of really, really rare records that were in such awful condition I didn't want to put them in here, but I didn't want to throw them away, so they went home with me.
What are some of the records that you have at home that are your favorites? The ones that, aside from, those really collectible ones.
Aside from Ghostbusters? Aside
from Ghostbusters and the thrash records that you can't stand to trash, what are the ones that you really treasure?
I'm always been a fan of the Beatles, also the Beach Boys. I have a lot of Beach Boys albums. The rest of it, I'm a 45 collector also, and a lot of the records, when you get into that kind of stuff, it gets really obscure. And I have a lot of records I really like by bands you've never heard of that made one record, 145, and you never heard from them again.
Yeah.
That's a lot of my personal favorites.
Okay. Do you have one album in particular that you just can't live without?
There's an album I have by Chubby Checker. After his career was completely over, he went to Europe and I believe did some drugs and made this psychedelic rock album that's actually fantastic. It's a good album.
Okay.
Nobody else thinks so, but I do.
Is there one in the collection that's super rare? Like what's the most valuable record?
I can tell you the most valuable record I have here, if you want, is right behind me. It's a Beatles album where it's known as the Butcher cover. They took they got with a weird photographer back in the 60s, and he took some pictures of them surrounded by decapitated baby dolls and raw meat, and this somehow got translated into an album cover, and it was recalled like a week later.
Okay.
And
so there aren't too many out there?
There aren't too many out there.
How'd you come across that one?
Just one of my buys. I bought a big collection of records and said, oh, this is in here.
Where do you go to buy?
Honestly, this hobby has become so popular lately. The yard sales and thrift stores, they're pretty cleaned out. Honestly, I get most of my stuff from it just coming in the door.
Do you get a lot of good stuff from the people here in the valley?
Yeah, there's a lot of good records in this area.
Is there one that stands out as really just caught you off guard when it came in the door?
There was one time I bought a collection of records and I noticed that somebody had written their name at the top of the album cover, and I looked at it and I went, I know this person. I work with him here. And I went back and I said, hey, I have a present for you. And he hadn't seen that record in 20 years.
Oh my gosh.
He said, that's actually my mother's handwriting on the front of the cover, and she had just passed away. And he was very happy to have it, but you never know.
Did he take it back from you?
Oh, I gave it to him.
Yeah.
I gave it to him, But it's just amazing. The stuff just goes around in circles.
Yeah. Do you see the interest in vinyl sticking around for a lot longer? I
think so. That the kids are into this stuff.
Yeah.
That's what really amazes me. I was the 15-year-old kid in the record store 20 years ago, and at the time I was seen as that was something that was kind of weird. People my age didn't get that, and now I see these 15-year-old kids in here all the time, and it's kind of enlightening. It gives me some faith in humanity. A 15-year-old kid was in here a while back asking me for Dave Van Ronk. I said, how do you know who that is? He's a folk singer from the 60s.
Yeah.
He's kind of obscure. How do you know this? Yeah,
what did he say?
He asked me for that, and I said, yeah, I've got some of them.
Did he tell you how he knew of that guy?
I think where they're finding it is over the internet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you go on YouTube, you go on the internet, and you say, well, I like this band. Well, here's some other stuff like it.
Is this it for you?